Welcome back, everyone, to the 26th episode of Sporting Max, where today we are joined by two-time NBL Champion Darryl McDonald. Welcome to the podcast. Three-time. Welcome to the podcast, Darryl. How are you going at the moment?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Just, start of summer holidays, summer, playing a bit of basketball here and there.
Nice.
So tell me about your childhood and your times playing at great places like Rucker Park.
Well, okay. It didn't start at Rucker Park.
Yep.
So where I grew up. So I grew up. I'm born and raised in Harlem.
Yep.
So Harlem, USA, and coming from there, like you just play. So you played all the time. You know what I mean? And like for us, basketball was all year round. Whereas, in the summertime we had softball, baseball, in the wintertime we had football, but we always had basketball.
Yeah.
So I'm playing every day, all the time. And then you the more you play, you just continue to get better and get better and get better. And as I got older, I started playing it was a tournament called Chicks All Stars. It was a Chicks All Stars. It was a tournament right up the street from where I lived at, right up from where I grew up at. And that's where I made a name for myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then that carried over to Rucker. And, at the time I wasn't in school. And so I had an opportunity to actually go back to school, and I ended up going to junior college at Westchester Community College. So played 2 years there. And then 2 years I signed at Texas A&M, played 2 years there. And just like every other kid, man, you think you're going to the NBA. It was just something that didn't happen. You know what I mean? But growing up in New York, it's a tough cloth, man. You gotta come ready to play all the time. You know what I mean? And yeah, Rucker Park was I wouldn't say where it ended, but that's where I was playing there until I came over here.
So how did you get recruited into Texas A&M?
From junior college. So playing junior college ball. Okay, and then even before going to junior college, I got recruited playing in this tournament. So playing in Chicks All Stars, a guy seen me playing. This guy named Lincoln Sessoms. He seen me playing, and at the time, like I said, I wasn't in school. He asked me, did I want to go back to school, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll go. You know what I mean? And then I ended up going to junior college, Westchester Community College, for 2 years. But what happened was the coaches actually came and watched me play in this tournament. And it was they came and probably watched one of the best games I've had. And then immediately, yeah, we want you at our school. And then the next week, because Westchester's maybe about an hour drive. If I can't even remember, maybe an hour drive from where I lived at. Because I'm from Harlem. Westchester, kind of not upstate, but it's a couple of hours drive, or about an hour drive. But the coaches actually came back down the following week to meet my mom and my grandmom, and my brothers and stuff was there, things like that. And then when August came, I was there, and I went for 2 years.
Yeah.
My second year there, so I made All-American my second year at Texas and at Westchester Community, and that's where. See, so I went on a recruiting trip. Okay, so they used to have two recruiting periods. One was in, I think, November, and the other one was in April. So I went on a November recruiting trip to Texas A&M, and it was nice. Like it was, it was good. It was in, again, I'm going from Texas to Harlem. You know what I mean? It was completely different. But I like what they had there. I like what they was, what they was trying to build. And so I actually signed me and another guy. So me and another guy from my school, we went there together. So we went as kind of a package deal, you know what I mean? So we both signed early, and then had really good years in JUCO, and then that was it.
So how would you describe your game then?
I was probably a bit flashy, you know what I mean? That's where my nickname from Rucker Park was Mr. Excitement.
Yeah.
Because I was a bit flashy, and you know what I mean. But when I got to college, it's funny though, because when I got to college, it wasn't like they tried to tone me down. They just let me play my game. And it was the same when I was in JUCO. It was the same when I went to Texas A&M. It was the same. They just let me play my game. You know what I mean? And again, I was a one. I was a point guard / two guard, but probably more one than two. You know what I mean? And I think I just developed more of a point guard mentality as I got older and older. You know what I mean? Because again, I used to score. Like I was never a great shooter, but I was also one of those guys that you couldn't stop. Like you couldn't stop me from getting where I wanted to get.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I just used that to my advantage. I was one of those guys. I didn't have to shoot jumpers because you couldn't stop me. You know what I mean? And then over the course of your career, the game has changed a bit where you're starting to get scouted and things like that. So I continue to work on I became a better shooter. I wasn't a great shooter, but I became a better shooter where it was enough to be respected. You know what I mean? And that just, that carried on to my career over here. And I've been here ever since.
Now, you spent several years in the Canadian National Basketball League and also in the CBA. Can you tell me about your time there?
Okay, so the Canadian, what I was doing, right? So after college, right? So after Texas A&M,
yep.
Like I didn't get drafted to the NBA, but I had an opportunity to try out. So I tried out with the New Jersey Nets at that time, and I just wasn't good enough. You know what I mean? And so I had to. I had to go back. I had to go back to Harlem, and at the time I had 3 sons. I got to get a job, so I had to work, and so I got a job at working at Toys R Us for about a couple of months, and then just out of the blue, so I actually left New York and moved because I had 2 brothers that lived in Connecticut. So Connecticut is about 2 hours from New York, so I moved to Connecticut with them, and the whole time I was there, I was working. I used to work at on the Navy base.
Yeah.
I was working at the Officers Club on the Navy base. But every day I was hooping. So I go to work. After work, I'm straight to the gym. I'm hooping every day. Hooping. And then I end up getting a call to play I got an opportunity to try out for the CBA, which was in Topeka, Kansas at the time. And I went to the trial, but I didn't make it. So I actually didn't make that. I didn't make that team. But the same guy who recruited me called me about 5 months later. Like this was in May. So I went to try out, maybe later. I went to try out for the CBA. It would have been maybe October. It would have been October, November.
Yeah. Didn't
make that. And then the next year around May, like I said, I stayed with my brother. I was moving with my brother from January to May. So I ended up getting a call to go try out in this league. It was called the WBL. So it's a 6'4" and under. It was a 6'4" and under league, which eventually turned into the NBL, the Canadian NBL.
Yeah.
Okay. But there was a league before that, which was called the WBL, which was a 6'4" and under league. So I got an opportunity to try out for that. And I went to the tryout and didn't make it again. So I ended up getting cut from that. But then 2 weeks later, the guy calls me back. We want you back. We want you to come play. And I ended up, so around June. So actually, this is funny though, because at the same time, my daughter, the day I had to meet them, my daughter was born. God rest her soul.
Yep.
She was born. And so, I went to the hospital to see her, then left, went straight, jumped on the plane, and I had to meet the team in Roxbury, Boston. I think it was called Roxbury. I can't even remember. So I met them there, and then from there we went to Vegas. So I was in Vegas that whole summer playing in this WBL, the 6'4" and under league. And then after that, I got an opportunity to try out for the CBA. So I played CBA, I played at Oklahoma City my first year. Excuse me. My first year I played at Oklahoma City. It was called the Oklahoma City Cavalry. So I played on that year. And as the season goes, I end up getting cut because this is funny. I end up getting cut because I fouled a guy on a shot to win the game. So he hit 2 free throws.
Yep.
So he ended up hitting 2 free throws, and we end up losing the game. The coach cut me after that. No joke. Sent me home. Called me back a week later. actually called me back, paid me more money,
You're right.
and I finished out the season. But then the next year, he actually traded me to Sioux Falls. So that's where I was in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, for CBA. I played there for 3 years. But after the CBA, I always played in the WBL, the 6'4" and under league. So I was going almost 11, 12 months out of the year. So I played WBL, CBA, WBL, CBA, and then my last, I wouldn't call it WBL. This was the Canadian NBL. So in my last season, I had like one of the, I had a really, really good season. You know what I mean? I was averaging like 20 points, like 13 assists, like 6 rebounds. So we ended up, we had a really good season. Now, before I went back to the CBA, I had the opportunity to go to the Philippines and play over there. So I went over there in about September to try out. And I get over there, another interesting story. I get over there, we training.
Yep.
And that night, the coach says, takes me to dinner. He goes, don't pass the ball. Shoot the ball every time you touch it. If you got 2 people on you, you shoot it. If you got 3 people on you, shoot. Because I wasn't like I said, I wasn't a shooter.
Yeah.
I was a scorer. But I actually got to a point where I wasn't even trying to score. I was more of a distributor. I was trying to get other people involved. And he was like, nah, don't do that. You got to shoot the ball every time you touch it. Shoot it every time you touch it.
What's that like for your coach to, come up to you and go, don't pass it, shoot it?
It was again, it was wild because I kind of knew about the league because I knew some guys that was playing there. But I never, like I said, I never even thought about it like that. I was going over there to be a team player. When he said, don't pass, shoot the ball every time you touched it. So the next day in training, every time I touched the ball, I jacked it. I was just shooting. I was shooting jumpers. I was getting on the rim. I was doing everything. So now after that, I had to go get measured because now this is a 6'2" and under league. So now this league is 6'2" and under.
Yeah.
I had to go get measured. So they measure me, right? They measure me at 6'2" and a quarter.
Oh.
Right? So check this out. So they measured me at 6'2" and a quarter. That night, didn't say nothing. So that night, the next morning, I get a knock on my door. I used to have a driver, so this guy would take me everywhere I needed to go. So he's knocking on my door like 4 a.m. I'm like, dude, what's going on? What you want? He said, we gotta go. I'm like, where are we going? He said, we're gonna get your height down. Yeah, this is what he tells me. He said, we're gonna get your height down. So I'm like, the first thing I'm thinking is how you gonna do this? Right. So first thing we do, he drives me to a barbershop. I get all my hair cut off. Right? One.
Yeah.
Then he takes me to a park and just, get out. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Where am I going? He said, no, get out. I said, where am I going? He said, you're going to run. You got to run. You're going to jog. I said, what am I doing that for? He said, so you can get tired. Right?
Yeah.
So now I'm in this park. I don't even know where I'm at. I'm just running. And eventually I get tired. So now they take me back to get measured again. So now when I get there, they take me in a bathroom. So now I get in the bathroom. I got a midget. I'm going to tell you, I can't even remember whether it was a midget or a little kid. They put a little kid on my shoulder. And now I'm walking around the bathroom with this little kid on my shoulder. Just walking. I was doing that for about 15 minutes.
Oh.
Right? I go out. I get measured. They measured me at 6'2" and an eighth.
Oh, no.
They gave me $100, sent me home. That was it. So that's how I ended up back in the CBA that my last year.
What was that like for you to go to really extreme measures to stay in the league?
It was, you know what? I'm gonna tell you the honest truth. At the time, it was. I wanted to play in the league because it was the money. It was actually really. It was going to be really good money, and it was only 3 months. It was only 3 months, so it was only a 3-month league.
Yeah.
But it was really good money. So I wanted to stay bad. You know what I mean? But I couldn't. And then again, that's when I ended up back in the CBA. So I ended up back at Sioux Falls, and I was having my best year. since being there. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
I had a couple of really, really good games, and I had this guy call me. So he was an agent, because I actually didn't have an agent at that time. So an agent called me, and he goes, for some reason, I'm in the CBA. So I'm in the CBA now. So for some reason, your name just keeps coming up. And, I'm like, okay. And he goes, I want to try to get you a job in Italy.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, cool. So we actually had a game. So he said, call me. We had a game against Wichita Falls at the time, which is in Texas. So he said, I'm gonna call you after your game. Give me a call, let me know how you did. I actually had a really good game too. So I called him, and he said, I've just been talking to a lot of people, and people like your game, like how you play, and like I said, your name just keeps coming up. And he said, I want to represent you. So he was like, I can't get you in Italy if I'm not representing you. And I'm like, okay, cool. And the guy actually had a really good name. So he sent me a contract. I filled it out. Back then we had, I had to fax it back, and then the whole Italy thing didn't pan out. They gave the job to somebody else. And he was like, it's all right. I'm gonna keep on working and keep on working for you and blah, blah, blah. And I had another really, really good game that was on ESPN. And it was so in the CBA back then, I was in Sioux Falls. Rapid City is also in Sioux Falls, but Rapid City was the big time club. Like, they had all the money. All the ex-NBA guys would go there to Sioux Falls. I mean, to Rapid City, sorry. They would all go to Rapid City. So we played them. We actually played them on TV. And I don't know, you wouldn't know who Bernard King was, like an ex-NBA guy. So he was commentating the game. And I ended up with like 35. I had one of the best games ever. I had one of my best games in the CBA ever. And I had like 35. And the agent actually saw the game. So he called me as soon as I got back to Sioux Falls, and he was like, I'm gonna find you something. And then no sooner than about maybe 2 weeks later, Brett Brown calls me from here. And that's how I ended up in Australia.
You dominated the league in your first year in Australia, and you led the Giants to the championship, coming in runner-up in the MVP awards and also runner-up in the best defensive player. What did these features and also awards mean to you?
It meant a lot. You know what I mean? It meant a lot. Again, just first year, coming out here my first year and being able to, just put a stamp on the league. And like I said, the MVP was something I would have loved to have. Yeah, I lost. The crazy thing is I actually lost it by 1 point. I lost it to Andrew Gaze by 1 point.
Were you all right with that? Losing it to Gaze?
You know what? I was. But the wild thing is, so we got the award show, and I won the Good Hands Award.
Yeah.
So as I'm up there, this way it was why I was up there. So I was up there picking up my Good Hands Award, and I kind of look, I kind of take a glance to the right, and the MVP trophy is there. The award is there. And I look, and I see Andrew Gage's name on it.
Oh.
So that really, it didn't kill me. It was just wow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then so I went back to my table, and I said, I was like, yo, I'm not gonna win MVP. Andrew got it. And they was like, how you know? I said, because I actually just seen it. And they were like, what? I said, I just seen it while I was up on the stage. You know what I mean? But to have that kind of season, and then, like I said, they end up winning the championship that year is probably, I'm gonna tell you the honest, it's probably the reason why I ended up staying in Australia for, I'm 26 years now. You know what I mean? That first year was the reason probably why I'm still here.
Now that championship in 94 with the Giants, game 1, you hit the game-winning shot in OT to give yourselves a 95-93 win. Take me through the play and what you yourself were thinking in your head in the moments of that shot before and after.
Well, what happened was, so before the overtime, because the game went into overtime. First of all, okay, being an import. So when you're an import, your job is to not necessarily do everything, but back then you pretty much did everything. So I'm
Yeah.
taking the last shot. That was always going to be my mindset. You know what I mean? And so the last after the so into the regulation, I had a chance to win it. You know, missed the shot. Paul Maley almost tapped it in. He didn't make it. So that was it. Like I got it. You know, they gave it. It was pretty much giving us a chance. They missed. Or what's the name? Mark Davis hit a shot. It was wild because people thought it was a 3 when it was only a 2. If it was a 3, that would have put them up 1. It was only a 2, so that tied the score. And that was the thing. When I got it, you know, I'm ending it. My mindset was always, I'm not giving you guys another chance. I'm not giving you another shot at it. I'm gonna take this down to the wire. And it was just a patent move for me. It's one of the moves I love the spin move, and I got him in again because of my size. You know, I won't even use that because Brett. It was against Brett Maher, who's about 6'2". I'm 6'3", 6'4". But I just wanted to try to get him in the paint and jump over him, and that's what I did. And that was it. Game over. And then came back to Victoria, came back to Melbourne and beat them by 30 in game 2.
For the next few years, you stayed consistent with your stats, winning the Good Hands Award each year, winning MVP in the NBL All-Star Game, and also in the NBL's first and second team for a few years in a row. Do you think about keeping up consistency with your stats when you're playing?
You know what? I was never a stats guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the one stat I'm gonna tell you the honest truth. The one stat I used to always look for or look at was assists. Like I wanted to keep my assists up all the time. That was just the main one. Everything else would just come. Like I said, I scored when I needed to, but I wanted to. The assist was the main one, and I'm not gonna say steals was probably another one because again, I ended up the all-time lead in scoring, steals, and second in assists. But assists is the one it was one of those that I always wanted. You know what I mean? So I always try to keep my assists up. But again, if you look down the line and you look at how everything dropped, it's because the league's changed. You know, things that people are getting quicker. You know, people getting stronger, so the league's changed. So everything dropped a little bit. You know what I mean? But assist was if it was a stat that I always assist and probably turnovers because I used to hate to turn over the ball.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a coach killer. You know what I mean? You got to take care of the ball. So I never led the league, but I was always in the top 3.
You stuck with the team when they merged into the Victoria Titans under another great coach, obviously Brian Goorjian. What was that like to go from one great coach to another in Brett Brown and Brian Goorjian?
I'm gonna tell you, it wasn't a lot different. You know, they were similar in their approach to the game. You know what I mean? Both real intense in training. You know what I mean? The difference, I wouldn't say not necessarily basketball wise, but so when I got to Goorjian, so it was always a word. So the word around the NBL was, so every time you played his teams, they just seemed so much stronger than everybody else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they did everything. They were just so much stronger than everybody else. And so, you know, people, you ain't gonna be able to play for Goorjian. He's not gonna let you play, and you know what I mean. He gonna do this, he gonna do that. Like we gotta lift every day. You gotta do all that, and that didn't bother me. None of that stuff bothered me. So before I even got there, so we had all these interviews, and my interview took about 30 seconds. I walked in. He said, "You in?" I said, "Yep." He said, "Good." And then he asked me about if another guy, I think might have been David Smith, who was also with the Giants. He asked me if David Smith could be a backup point guard, and I was like, "Yeah, I think he can play it." And that was it. The conversation was done. You know what I mean? So I was there. So now I'm actually coming off injury, right? So I broke my kneecap in November in '97. I had broke my kneecap, so I didn't play half of. They had a small season, so they had a season from January to June in 1998, and I played half that season, but I played the second half of that season, and I was actually playing injured. So my knee, I was playing on an injured knee when I played. So now the merge comes. I ended up with the Titans getting further. So we doing with like everything people said was true. So we lifted every day, Monday through Friday. We pretty much train every day. If you're not training, you're doing individuals. We's doing that every day.
Yeah.
And so I'm doing weights with Bruce Gray, and he probably, I don't know if he's gonna watch this, but I always tell him he's actually saved my career because again, like I said, I'm coming off a broken kneecap. But I got in the gym with him, and I used to do leg weights. I was doing leg weights 3 or 4 times a week. You know what I mean? To start, actually not even to start, because what happened was, so like the first week, it was just so we did legs every Monday. And then about 10, 11 games into the season, I did my knee again. Not as bad, but I did it again. So it just went weak. Then I got with Bruce Gray, and I was doing leg weights 3 times a week. And I mean, like heavy, because the Body World gym used to be upstairs. I used to have to walk downstairs backwards. That's how my legs were. You know what I mean? But he got my legs so much strong. He got my legs so strong. I'm really skinny. I have really skinny legs.
Yeah.
But I actually had the strongest legs on the team at that time. Once he kind of hooked, he put the weights on me. I ended up with the strongest legs on the team. And once I got better, like I said, I missed about 10 games. I came back about the end of that first season. And we end up going to the championship, but we lost to Adelaide in the final. You know what I mean? But it was different. And then it's funny though. One year, might have been that next year. Gorge pulls me over. We had like a little meeting. He go, "Dude, you know what? You just got to play. You know what I mean? You just play. Go do what you do." And that was it. He never, you know what I mean? He never said, he just let me play my game. And again, the one regret I have in NBL is not winning the championship with the Titans. You know what I mean? I was there for 4 years. We went to 2 grand finals. We lost 2 semifinals. But that's the one thing I regret. I would have loved to win a championship with Gorge.
In 2001, 2002, the Titans unfortunately had to fold. Where was your head at when this happened?
You know what? I was fine with it because another team, so the Victoria Giants took over. So what happened, Gorge left and went to Sydney. So he ended up taking the Sydney job. I actually wanted to go. I actually wanted to go with him to Sydney because that's where I was just adamant I wanted to win a championship with him. So I wanted to go with him to Sydney, but I couldn't. So I ended up staying with the Victoria Giants. So that first year with them, it was just, you know what I mean? It was like Mark, I don't know if you know Mark Wright. Mark Wright was the coach. He was good, but it just didn't, like we didn't have a great team, but I thought we had a team that was good enough to make the playoffs. And it's funny because going down the line, it was a time where I think we needed like 2 wins. And we could have made the playoffs, but nobody knew. Like nobody said anything about it. Like the coaching staff didn't say anything.
Yeah.
Like it was almost like you're not in the playoffs, you're not gonna make the playoffs. Don't worry about it. But we were still there, but nobody said nothing. You know what I mean? And the season was okay. It was, it wasn't bad. But then the next year comes, they pull me in. We're gonna waive you. We're not gonna bring you back because we're trying to win a championship in the next 3 to 5 years, and we don't think you're gonna be playing. This is what they did. This is what they told me.
Man,
I go,
that's
okay.
insane.
Right? This is what they told me. I said, okay. So I got on the phone and called a friend of mine, and I think you interviewed him, Leonard Copeland.
Yeah.
So I got on the phone and called him. I said, yo, the Giants just got rid of me. He was like, what? I said, the Giants just got rid of me. He said, okay, I'll call you back in 5 minutes. All right, cool. He doesn't call me back. Seamus McPeak calls me. Seamus was the owner of the Melbourne Tigers. He calls me. He goes, I heard you're not back at the Giants. You want to come to the Tigers? I was like, sure. Offered me a contract right on the phone. So I ended up out of a job and into another job straight away. You know what I mean? So I went to the Tigers. So I was playing with Andrew Gaze, Noah Copeland, Mark Bradkey. You know, I was coming off the bench. I was sixth man of the year that first year. I was runner up the second year. You know, and we didn't have seasons everybody thought we could have. Like we should have done better, but we lost in the playoffs both those years. And then now, this is my last 3 years. It becomes interesting. So Andrew Gaze retires. Leonard goes to another team. Leonard goes to Brisbane. Mark Bradkey goes to Brisbane. Al Westover or Lindsay retires. Al Westover becomes the head coach. And I'm coaching at the time, so I'm coaching the Big V. So I'm coaching me. I'm actually not the head coach. I'm the assistant coach with Tawaza. Warren Giddy was coaching. I was his assistant.
Yeah.
So I actually don't know what's going on. I have no idea what's going on. But then I get a call just out of the blue. It's weird how stuff happens. So we trained on a Thursday night. I get a call from Al Westover like 10 o'clock at night on a Thursday night.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's up, Al? He go, Mac, what's going on? How you doing? I said, I'm good. He said, I just want to talk about next year. I'm like, what about next year? He said, just playing with the Tigers again, and to talk about the China trip because we used to go to China all the time. And I said, Al, I'm actually going to Wollongong tomorrow. I got a good deal on the table. And he just went quiet, like didn't say nothing.
Wow.
Then he came back on and he said, don't sign nothing. I want you back here. And he said, I want you back. He said, Anstey's coming. And I'm like, I said, is Anstey actually coming? Talking about Chris Anstey. I said, is Anstey coming? He said, he's coming. Right. Yeah, he gave me because I played with Anstey at the Tigers for 2 years. I mean, at the Titans for 2 years. So I knew Anstey, and we actually worked well together. We played well together. He was like, yeah, he's definitely coming. And he said, Rashard Tucker's coming back, Dave Thomas coming back. It'd be you. I want you to run the team, blah, blah, blah. So if you go up there, don't sign nothing. So I jump on the plane the next morning to Wollongong. I'm in the car riding with Brendan Joyce. Brendan Joyce was the coach at the time. So I'm in the car riding with him. And I go, I'll just tell you, dude, I'm gonna go back to the Tigers. And he's pretty much saying, I kind of figured that, you know what I mean? But just wanted to, you know what I mean? And then they even offered me more money than what they was going to give me. They actually offered me more money. But I was adamant at just staying, because if I'd have left, I would have had to, bring my family and everything, and I didn't want to do all that. So ended up staying with the Tigers. We won a championship that year. So that was my third year, right? So so think third year. After the Giants told me I wasn't going to be playing in my third or fifth year. That was the third year I won a championship. Next year, we make the championship. We lose to Brisbane. They was tough. Like they had a tough outfit. Brisbane was the Golden State Warriors before the Warriors.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how tough they were. They was the Warriors before the Warriors, and we couldn't deal with them. And then the next year comes around, so I'm still starting. The next year comes around, and we start the season. We're like, this is year 5 with the Tigers. So we start the season with 9-0, beating everybody. Then we had a 4-game span. We played Sydney, Townsville, Perth, and then Sydney again. Right. So I started the first Sydney game. We lost. We get to Townsville, and I'm playing against Homicide. And I played against Homicide earlier that year.
Yeah.
And we end up beating him, and he had 7 points or something. He didn't have a good game.
Yeah.
We played against him in Townsville, and he just let me have it. He finished with he had about 37 or something. Like, he was killing me. I couldn't. There wasn't nothing I could do. I was struggling to defend him. Then we traveled there. We go to Perth, and I think the point guard was Gerald Brown at the time. He had 29 on me, and we lost.
Dominated, mate.
They was killing me. But I'm 40. I'm 43 at the time, by the way.
Yeah.
So I'm 43.
So how does your body deal with that elite physical level of basketball?
I was fine. I just couldn't play. I couldn't play extended minutes. You know what I mean? Like, I could start a game. I could still play, but I couldn't play long. I couldn't play a lot of minutes. So this is what happened. So after the Perth game, we lost, and we in the locker room, and I told Al, I said, I think you should take me out the starting lineup and play me sparring minutes. Don't play me a lot of minutes. And he was like, oh, yeah, it's something we could talk about. So that he ended up taking me out of the starting lineup. I only ended up playing 15, 20 minutes a game.
Yeah.
But I was always in the game. I was always in the game at the end of the game. So I always finished games. I didn't start games, but I always finished games. We ended up winning another championship. So I won a championship in my third year and my fifth year. After the Giants told me I wasn't going to be playing in 3 to 5 years. And I love that story because I always tell it for that same reason.
So what was that like to be told that you're not going to be playing for the next in 3 to 5 years and then go out and win a championship?
Yeah, it actually bothered me because again, I'm not saying we would have won at the Giants. They was putting a nice little team together, but it kind of hurt. It kind of hurt. I ain't gonna lie, it hurt my pride. Like I wasn't good enough. You know what I mean? And
yeah. So
I took that on board. But again, the thing is, when I went to the Tigers, like I said, I'm coming off the bench against Andrew Gage and Leonard Copeland. These guys are two Hall of Famers. They're two legends. I'm coming off the bench behind those guys. You know what I mean? I didn't have a problem with that. But then when they gone, now it's my show. Like, I can still play. And Al knew that. You know what I mean? Al knew that. And so I took those last 3 years and just had, I just played. My first year, the first year they left, I missed making first team All NBL by like 2 votes. And I lost to Larry Abney.
Yeah.
And the problem I had with that was Larry actually had a really good season. The problem is they won 8 games on the season. That's why I was heated about that. You know what I mean? And again, that bothered me because we ended up winning the championship.
So after the 2008 season, you retired. What was your perspective on life after basketball?
You know what? It was tough, man. It was funny. It was tough. And my partner at the time, she would tell you, like, I was not. I couldn't. It was almost like I couldn't let it go, man. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't let it go. You know what I mean? But I had to. But the crazy thing is, I'm one day, I'm actually walking. I had 2 little puppies. So I'm walking, they wasn't mine. They was my daughter's puppies. but I'm walking them. I get a call from Joey Wright. Yeah,
we just had him on the pod.
I know, I seen that.
Yeah.
I get a call from him. And he go, Mac, what's up? I said, no, all good, just out walking the dogs. He goes, are you retired? Because I had retired. So I kind of retired at the NBL dinner. They gave me a plaque and all types of stuff.
Yeah.
He said, are you retired? And I go, it depends on what you mean by that. He said, are you retired? And I was like, well, right now. He said, do you want to go around again? And I go, yeah, I can go again. So he wanted me, and because he was in Brisbane at the time, he wanted me to come up and back up Adam Gibson and work with Adam Gibson at the time. And I was like, sure, I could do that. Told me, it was a nice little deal. And then I would have been, after I finished playing, I would have been on the bench. I would have been assistant coach with him or behind him. And I was like, yeah. So went up there, had to visit, did all that stuff. And then came back. So about 2 weeks after that, he called me, or he didn't even call. He sent me a text. He was in America, and he was like, "It's not gonna happen." So it was never gonna be a team because the guy who was actually gonna put the money in, he pulled the pin on it.
Yeah.
And I think that was my cue to pretty much say just retire. So I let it go. Wasn't playing no more. But then Al Westover, who was the head coach, brought me on as an assistant. So I was like third? I was the third assistant coach behind Warwick Giddy and was it Stacker? I think Ian Stacker was there. Yeah, I think Stacks was there. So I was the third assistant coach behind those guys.
What was it like to be there as a third assistant coach? Just
it was good. Like, it was an opportunity to learn from the opportunity to learn from all three of those guys. Because coaching is what I wanted to do. That was always part of the plan. So Al told me, it was one of those, once you finish playing, I want to get you on the staff. I want to get you on the bench with us. And I was like, cool. So the opportunity to learn from him, and Stacker's been around for a long time. He's always been a coach. An opportunity to learn from him, and even an opportunity to learn from Waza. It was good. You know what I mean? You learn different things, you learn different tendencies, and stuff you can use, stuff you can take when you actually become a coach and stuff like that. So it was good. Like I didn't have a problem. We ended up going making a grand final that year, but we lost to the South Dragons.
So what are you doing at the moment?
Like I said, just working with juniors.
Yeah.
Just working with juniors.
I've seen you've recently been working with upcoming superstar Josh Giddey. Tell me about his game and what he's like to work with.
Yeah, it was he's good. He's good, man. Like when I got the call, to work with him, because a friend of mine who did all the weights and stuff with him called me and said, "Listen, I want you to work with him." And Josh, and then I started working with him, and he was over the moon. You know what I mean? And I just did the stuff I did with him is just game. Like, it was more game stuff. Stuff you're gonna do in the game. Like, we do other stuff. Like, we shoot, but I was doing like a lot of pick and roll stuff with him, ball handling stuff, and like he took everything in. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he grabs everything. You know what I mean? And that's what you want for a player. That's what you want from a player. When you're telling them, like, he's focused, but he's also he's locked into what you're telling him, and then he goes out and does it. You know what I mean? And so we was working out. We did a fair bit, but he's gonna be what he has is that, like, his IQ, like his basketball IQ is off the charts for somebody his age. You know what I mean? And right now, what is he? He's 6'9", point guard. You know what I mean? Distributes the ball well. He's actually a really, he can actually shoot the ball. He probably doesn't show it, but he shoots the ball pretty well. And it's something that he's worked on. You know what I mean? He's gotten stronger. But his ability to read the game is the thing that's gonna help him, because, like, he's an unbelievable passer. He's like, even Anstey is a guy who people know. He even said it when you see it. But his like I said, for me, it's his IQ. Like, his IQ is good. And right now, I know he's projected to be, like top 15, top 20.
Yeah.
He gets that opportunity. He can end up. I think he may end up in the lottery. For people that's watching, you got to have a look at him. You know what I mean? Have a look at this kid.
Absolutely.
He's going to be. He's good, man. Like, he's good.
What would be your greatest advice to anyone?
My greatest advice is just never give up. That's always been my motto. You know what I mean? Give 100%. And, no matter what it is, whether it's work, whether it's sport, school, just always give 100%, because you never know who's watching. You know what I mean? You never know who's watching you. But, never give up. Just because something don't happen today don't mean it's not going to happen tomorrow. It might not happen tomorrow. Don't mean it's not going to happen. Just never give up on yourself.
Thanks, Darryl, for coming on and being a part of the podcast and putting aside some spare time to come on and have a chat. It's been amazing to have you on and to share your insights into, your life, your career, growing up.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thanks for having me.
No worries,
Thanks for
Darryl.
having me.
Stay tuned, everyone, for some more Sporting Max.